Okay, so in this video we are going to be talking about dummy activities. Now I've got a couple of definitions here for you and just information about some dummy activities. Now what this means is this is basically an imaginary activity on our network diagram that is required if two activities share the same but not all of their immediate predecessors. Now we're going to see what this actually looks like on an activity table and on a network diagram. But we're going to come back to this point in a little bit. Now the way we actually draw this is it will be required from the end of each shared immediate predecessor to the start of this activity we mentioned before that has an additional immediate predecessor. So this point that I've highlighted in green, the second point just tells us where this is going to connect on our actual network diagram. And as we said before, this is not a real activity, but it's imaginary, so it takes no time. So we think of it as having no time, or basically a duration of 0. Now on our actual network diagram, it is going to look like this. Normally we have with our vertices a just line drawn, a full closed line as the edge joining the two vertices. Here it is going to be a dotted line to denote that this is in fact a dummy activity and not a real activity. We give it its own kind of name. Now, when we look at a network diagram like this, I'm just going to start drawing it as we would in the past, and we're going to stop and see when an issue kind of occurs. Now, like I normally do, I'm going to label my starting vertex, and I'm going to go from here. Now, we can see that both A and B have no immediate predecessors. So we're just going to draw these two activities beginning from our starting vertex. So I'll call this activity A, this activity B. Now, these have been finished, so I'll drop another vertex here to show that those activities are done. Now, moving on, we've done A, B. C has a predecessor of A. So from A, I'm going to get activity C. Done this. And activity D has an immediate predecessor of activity B. So kind of fairly straightforward, like we've sort of normally done before. Here's where it starts to get a little bit weird. Now, I'm going to continue drawing this. Now, from activity C, we get activity F. So activity F has an immediate predecessor of C. But we get to E and things get a little bit weird, because if you notice here, this definition that we had before kind of rings true here. Now, they have the same immediate predecessor of C, but one of these is different. This guy, D, is slightly different. So if we wanted to try to draw this, it would kind of look really weird, because we're basically asking ourselves, well, from, let's just close this up. Somehow, this activity of E, where I draw it, has to connect from, it has D as an immediate predecessor, so I could draw it kind of somewhere here, but I can't do it like this, because how am I going to get from C? Because if E had F as an immediate predecessor, sure, that would work. We can just go down the line and sort of connect it, and it's going to join up eventually. But because it has this kind of discrepancy, this that I've highlighted on the activity table, it shares one of the same immediate predecessors, but one of them is different, this D. So here is where we need to draw in our dummy activity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this imaginary line on our network diagram that connects C to D over here. Now what this is going to do is this now shows that we can flow from C down to here and from D over to there. So this is going to basically show us connecting these so that we have this same, so we can make this activity chart work basically on a network diagram. Now, once we get to G, that it has the immediate predecessors of E and F. So I can go to G and finish up over here. Now, might be a little bit weird to kind of think of, but with adding this dummy activity, this now makes the flow of our network diagram work. It addresses this kind of discrepancy of having this one thing in common, but this other thing not. And what this is going to allow us is it shows that flow of activities where we can get to E, but showing immediate predecessors of C and D. And what makes this possible is our dummy activity on our network diagram. Now in the next example, we're going to be given a network diagram and we are required to make this into an activity chart. So we're going to basically go through looking at each of these. Now, don't let these numbers confuse you, these number 1 and 2. This just means that this is the first dummy activity and the other one is the second dummy activity. Now we're basically going to look ahead here, look through this network diagram and see how we're going to write this as an activity chart. Now from the start, we have activity A. So that means activity A is our starting point. It has no immediate predecessors, so we draw this little dash through it. And we branch off now from there to B and C. So that means the activities of B and C have an immediate predecessor of A. So both of these have A as an immediate predecessor. Now, moving on, activity D has a immediate predecessor of B, so I can write that in. And E has an immediate predecessor of C, as we can see here. So for the most part now, this is kind of just the standard network diagrams that we've been doing, but it's going to get a little bit different here. Now we can see that, what are we up to? F. Now F has an immediate predecessor of, if we look here, F is over here. Now F has gone straight down to the end of C, so we can clearly see D is an immediate predecessor from the network diagram. But because of this dummy activity, this links the previous vertex right before this activity of E down to F. So the thing before that was my C. See, we go C down here, then the dummy activity, then we go down to F. So that means that not only D is a predecessor, immediate predecessor to F, but C is also. And if we look at G now, we'll notice that it goes out from the vertex that also connects the dummy activity. So I have D as an immediate predecessor, we can see that, but because it comes after that vertex that's connected to the dummy activity, this dotted line on our network diagram, C will also, again, be an immediate predecessor to this. Now, moving on, we go to H, and we can see before H, we got E and we got F. Hopefully you can just kind of see that by looking at it, but E comes before H, and F also comes before it too. So we're going to write E and F. Moving right along, I has an immediate predecessor of only G. That's pretty easy, thankfully. And we can see J now. If I draw this in, we can clearly see H is an immediate predecessor to that. It comes right before it. But we also have this little dummy activity here, which flows on from my vertex after activity G. So that means my immediate predecessors to J are H as well as G, because we've got G, then the dummy activity, then J. So let's write that in and we are finished. So anytime we see these dotted lines, we have to consider the vertex that links the activity before that to the actual dummy activity on our network diagram. Now the final example we're doing is we're going to be drawing a network diagram like we did in example 1, but we are looking at scheduling now with these network diagrams. So what you can see is we've added another section to this, which is a duration. So when we draw our network diagram, it is going to have these weighted edges, what we're going to call them, which tell us basically, here we're talking about days, how many days it's going to take to complete this particular activity for the project as a whole. Now, drawing this up is going to be very, very similar to what we've been doing before. Let's have our start here. And from our start, we have that A and B have no immediate predecessors. So that's good. We can just draw them in. They are going to come out from our starting point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the activity A, but I'm also going to write the weight. So A takes 8 days to complete. So I'm just going to write a comma next to the activity and write the duration, how long it takes to complete it. Now we've completed these activities, so we can draw in our vertices. Moving on, C has an immediate predecessor of A. So that is going to go from A. It's going to follow on from A. We've completed this activity now. We can put a vertex. D has an immediate predecessor of B. So it's kind of starting to look similar to our last network diagram. I'm going to write D and 2. Now, as I said before, you don't have to make it look exactly like what I've done. If you've paused the video and had to go on your own, then you may get something looking slightly different, but as long as you're connecting the correct vertices, then you are going to be okay. Now, moving on, we have that E has an immediate predecessor of C. So going down here, I have E, and that takes how many? 3 days. And now we pause and we see this discrepancy again. So we have a common activity and a common immediate predecessor of C, but with F, it also has an immediate predecessor of D. So I'm going to make it go out from D. So F, and I'm going to write 1. But I also have to somehow get to F from C. So this is where I include my dummy activity. So I'm going to write a dummy activity from this vertex to the vertex after D. This indicates that C has happened, we got to here, but also D has happened before that. Because my activity F goes through, comes out of this vertex, so I have to write in the dummy activity basically at this particular point. So that this shows that I've done C and I've done D at this point before I'm ready to go and do F. So since this is a dummy activity, when we write a weight, I don't have to label this activity, but I have to write that the weight is 0. Because remember, this is an imaginary task. So I'm going to write it like this. And once I get from here, I have that G has immediate predecessors of E and F. So G is going to go here. And it has a weight of 2. Cool. And then H has an immediate predecessor of G. So H is just going to come out from G. And I have my finish point here. So this is how we can use our dummy activities to, as we defined up here, basically connect two activities which share the same but not all of the immediate predecessors. And when we write it in, we're going to use this dotted line because these activities are not real but imaginary. So these aren't real edges we are drawing. These are imaginary, but they allow us to show the information on an activity chart when we have this discrepancy with our immediate predecessors. That brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.